Miffy took a bite of a big biscuit. It made a nice crunchy sound. Just then, she heard a scratching sound at the door. When she opened it, there was Snuffy. Said Snuffy, barking happily and wagging her tail. "You must have heard my biscuits crunching," said Miffy. "I suppose you would like a biscuit too." She gave Snuffy one of her biscuits. Snuffy gobbled it up, but then she suddenly stopped and pricked up her ears. "What can you hear now?" asked Miffy. Snuffy ran back to the door and began to scratch it. When Miffy opened the door, she saw her father driving home in the car. "You could hear Father's car from far away, Snuffy," said Miffy. "You have very good hearing." After lunch, Snuffy became very excited again. She wanted to go outside. Miffy asked her mother if she could join Snuffy. "But don't be too late," said Miffy's mother. So Miffy followed Snuffy. She wanted to know what else Snuffy could hear. Suddenly, Snuffy stopped and pricked up her ears. "What can you hear now?" asked Miffy. Snuffy barked as if she was saying, "Listen." Miffy listened carefully and heard a bird cheeping, but she couldn't see it. "Can you see the bird, Snuffy?" asked Miffy. There it was. A lovely bird flew into the sky. Once again, Snuffy's ears popped up. She was always listening for strange sounds. This must have been a really strange sound because Snuffy became very excited. But Miffy couldn't hear a thing. Snuffy began to run to the forest. "Perhaps she can hear a frog," wondered Miffy, "or a duck on a pond." Snuffy ran further and further, stopping to listen and then running on again each time. It must be something very strange, thought Miffy. She had to run very fast to keep up with Snuffy. Snuffy became more and more excited. What in the world could she be hearing? Thought Miffy. She still couldn't hear a thing. It was so quiet in the middle of the woods, but Snuffy ran on and on. At last, Miffy began to hear a strange sound. "It must be Boris Bear sawing some wood," she thought, but it wasn't the sound of sawing wood. It was much louder than that. Suddenly they came to an open space in the woods, and they saw where the noise was coming from. It was Boris. He was leaning against a tree, fast asleep and snoring. Snuffy began to bark, and Boris woke up. "Oh dear," said Boris. "Hello, Snuffy. Hello, Miffy. I was working all morning in the woods, and I must have fallen asleep." Miffy thought that was very funny. "Well, Snuffy could hear you all the way from our house," said Miffy. "Either your snoring is very loud, or Snuffy's hearing is very, very good." One morning, Miffy hurried to school, and Snuffy ran along with her, because she could smell the delicious sausage that was in Miffy's lunchbox. Miffy was in a hurry, because today was art class, and she wanted to make a present for Mother's Day. In the classroom, there were all kinds of coloured paper and cloth, and Miffy decided to make a pretty box for her mother's necklace. She worked very hard the whole day, cutting pieces of strong blue card. And gluing and folding the pieces together to make a beautiful box. Then she took a bright red paper and cut out a heart shape and pasted it on the lid of the box. On the way home, Miffy stopped and put the blue box inside her lunchbox so her mother wouldn't see it. She wanted it to be a surprise. I will hide the present underneath my bed, she thought, and draw some clues for my mother on many pieces of paper. When Miffy took the blue box out of her lunchbox, she noticed that it smelt a bit like the sausage that she had eaten for her lunch. Snuffy smelt it too and came to see what Miffy was doing. Shh, Miffy whispered. This is a secret present for my mother. Miffy then took her drawing pad and drew a picture on each sheet. First, she drew a picture of a bowl and put the picture on her mother's favourite chair. Then she drew a picture of her toy box and placed that picture in the bowl. And finally, she drew a picture of her bed and put that picture in the toy box. Now Mother will have clues to help her find her present, said Miffy. It will be great fun. The next morning, Miffy said, Today it is Mother's Day. It's your special day, Mother. Wouldn't you like to sit in your favourite chair? When Mother saw the picture of the bowl on her chair, she laughed. I know, she said. This is a clue, and I must look in the bowl. When she went to the bowl, she saw the picture of the toy box. And when she went to the toy box, she saw a picture of Miffy's bed. So then she looked under Miffy's bed, and Miffy smiled, thinking of how happy her mother would be when she saw the pretty blue box. But there was nothing under Miffy's bed, not even a drawing. Where should I look now? Asked Miffy's mother. Just then Snuffy came in, wagging her tail and barking happily. What have you done with the present, Snuffy? Asked Miffy. And Snuffy ran to her doghouse in the garden. Mother looked inside the doghouse, and there was the box. What a lovely present, cried Miffy's mother happily. How clever you were to make it, Miffy. And how clever you were to hide it in Snuffy's doghouse. I would never have thought to look there. Miffy laughed. It had turned out to be a very special Mother's Day. One day the wind was blowing very hard, and at Boris and Barbara's house a window had been left open. When Boris came home from working in the forest, he was surprised to find the house full of leaves. "Barbara, Barbara," shouted Boris, "you forgot to close the window, and now the house is full of leaves." But Barbara wasn't home. Where could she be? Just then, Barbara arrived with a basket full of groceries. "Hello, Boris," she said. "I was in the village shopping for food. But you forgot to close the window. Just look at the house. The wind has blown all of these leaves into our living room. You should have remembered such an important thing." "Oh, I'm sorry, Boris," said Barbara. "I'll sweep all the leaves outside again." "But you shouldn't get too angry, because you also forget things sometimes." "I never forget important things," said Boris. He was still rather annoyed with Barbara. "I'm going to see Miffy," he said. "I remember that I promised to build a shed for her." So he picked up his tools and wood and put everything in his little wagon. said. "I remember to take everything I need so that I can do the job properly." Said Barbara. She didn't say any more, but continued to sweep the leaves as Boris pulled his wagon down into the forest. When he arrived at Miffy's house, he started to build a little shed, just big enough for Miffy's scooter. "It looks really good," said Miffy. "Thank you, Boris." And Boris felt very proud that he had done such a good job. Meanwhile, Barbara had finally finished sweeping all the leaves out of the house, and she was feeling very tired after so much work. She put the broom back in Boris's workshop in its proper place. And what do you think she saw on Boris's workbench? A lock and key! Just then, Miffy shut the door on her new shed, but it bounced back open again. "The door won't stay closed, Boris," said Miffy. "Did you forget to put a lock on it?" "Oh dear," said Boris. At that moment, Barbara appeared in Miffy's garden with something in her hand. It was a door lock. "Did you forget this, Boris?" asked Barbara. "I thought you never forgot anything important." Boris was very embarrassed, but Miffy said, "Oh dear, I forgot something important too. My mother told me I should make you some nice hot cocoa to say thank you for the new shed." And they all began to laugh. One day, Miffy was very excited because after school, her dance group was going to practice their new dance during Auntie Alice's dancing class. When school had finished, all the members of the dance group met up outside. Along came Winnie, who was very good at dancing on one leg. Then Melanie arrived, who was wonderful at spinning around. "But where is Grunty?" asked Miffy. "She's the best at doing the jumps." Just then they saw Grunty coming, but Grunty was limping, not jumping. "Oh dear," said Miffy. "What happened, Grunty?" "Why are you limping?" "It happened at the playground," said Grunty. "I fell off the slide and twisted my ankle. I can hardly walk." Just then, Miffy's mother drove up in the car. "Don't worry, Grunty," said Miffy. "You don't have to walk. My mother will drive you up the hill to Auntie Alice's house. She knows how to cure sore ankles." "Yes," said Miffy's mother. "Auntie Alice knows a lot of useful things." So Mother Bunny drove off with Grunty. Miffy, Melanie and Winnie followed on foot. They took a shortcut through the fields, and they all arrived at the same time at Auntie Alice's house, on top of the hill. "I was wondering where you all were," said Auntie Alice. But when she heard that Grunty had hurt herself, she knew exactly what to do. "I'm going to get a cold, wet cloth and wrap it round your ankle, Grunty," said Auntie Alice. "That will make the swelling go away." Grunty sat on a chair with her leg raised on a cushion. It didn't hurt, but she was very sad that she couldn't dance with her friends. Miffy, Winnie and Melanie practiced their part of the dance, but they were sad too because Grunty couldn't join in. "Don't be sad, girls," said Auntie Alice. "It's not so bad. I have some special cream for Grunty's ankle, and I think she will be ready to dance at the school performance next week." When the night of the school performance arrived, everyone wondered whether Grunty would really be able to do her jumps. The curtains opened and beautiful music began to play. First, Winnie danced out onto the stage and lifted one leg. "Bravo! Bravo! Hooray!" Then Melanie came out with her lovely pirouettes, and Miffy followed with a beautiful dance like a swan. Everyone waited to see Grunty. Winnie held her breath. Melanie closed her eyes. Miffy made a wish. Then Grunty appeared and made 3 big jumps across the stage. Everyone cheered. "Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!" Grunty said it didn't hurt at all, thanks to Auntie Alice. Mother Bunny had baked some delicious biscuits. Miffy was bringing some to Boris and Barbara Bear. As she walked through the forest, she saw a bird in a tree. At the bottom of the tree, she noticed that there were 1, 2, lots of mushrooms. And look, she thought, there are many white clouds up in the sky. She counted 1, 2, 3. Oh, and there are some beautiful butterflies. 1, 2, 3, 4. What else can I count? Then Miffy remembered that beyond the wooden bench there would be a few trees left before she reached Boris and Barbara's house. There was the bench. So she started counting. 1 tree, 2 trees, 3 trees, 4 trees, 5 trees, and there it was. "Hello, Miffy," said Boris. "It's so nice to see you. But look at the sky. There are some very dark clouds up there, and the wind is getting stronger. I think there is a storm on its way, and I should take you home right away." "But I brought some of my mother's delicious biscuits for you and Barbara," said Miffy. "Don't worry, you can visit us again tomorrow. Then we can all have biscuits and tea." So Boris took Miffy home. Soon the wind began to blow harder. Miffy was glad to be safely back at home. All night Miffy heard the wind blowing round the house. The next morning, the wind had died down. But when Miffy looked out of her window, she saw leaves and tree branches scattered on the ground. At tea time, Miffy asked her mother if she could go to visit Boris and Barbara again. "Of course, dear," said Mother Bunny, and off Miffy went. She saw that leaves and tree branches had been blown down by the wind in the forest as well. When she reached the bench, she started to count. 1 tree, 2 trees, 3 trees, 4, but there were no more trees. The last tree had been blown down during the storm. Miffy was shocked. "Boris! Boris!" she shouted. She ran to Boris's house. Boris came running out of the house. "Look what has happened!" But Boris didn't seem surprised by what he saw. "Sometimes trees get blown down when there's a big storm, Miffy," he said. "But come with me." And he took Miffy out to the back of the house. Look, every year I plant some new trees and let them grow a little. And when they're big enough, I plant them in the forest. Can I help you plant a new tree beside the others? Asked Miffy. Of course, said Boris. We'll do it right away. Now there are 5 trees again, said Miffy. And then it was tea time, and they enjoyed the delicious biscuits.
Miffy, 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 run! With her friends she's having fun. Snuffy, Grunty, Boris, Bear, Pop,